So many people are looking for the formula, and the formula is as simple as this. Use your number one income producing asset, yourself, to acquire capital, to buy more income producing assets and invest in more income producing assets. It really is that simple. That's how you multiply your annual income and turn it into your monthly income. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Own the Exit. I'm your co-host Caleb, and I'm here in the studio with Aaron, your co-host. What's up, Aaron?
What's going on, Caleb? Excited to be here for another episode.
Absolutely, man. This is a great series that we're in. We're in a roundtable conversation with top producers from our Network Multiplier Model program. The program is essentially made up of guys who have had asymmetric success in a variety of different industries, and they're now partnered with our firm to grow real estate wealth without real estate headaches, not just for themselves, but for folks in their network who they are uniquely positioned to serve. So I'm excited about this episode. We're going to dive into a topic that might sound too good to be true, but it actually is an achievable reality, and that is transforming your annual income into your monthly income. Imagine the power of being able to take, let's say you make $200,000-$300,000 a year, $500,000 a year, $1 million a year, right? What if you could unlock strategies both in your business and in your investment strategy where over some expanse of time, you could actually turn your annual income into your monthly income? What would that mean for you? Right? That's what we want to talk about today. So I'm excited to introduce our guests. Wayne Johnson first. What's up, Wayne?
Hey guys,
welcome,
how you doing?
Welcome back to Own the Exit, man. You've been with us a couple of times now.
Yeah.
So just in case this is your first time hearing an episode with Wayne, Wayne is an absolute titan in the health and wellness industry. He lost a $500 million enterprise, then rebounded to build a 9-figure revenue business in about 6 years. He's the principal and founder of Exodus Legacy Trust, where he focuses on helping entrepreneurial families achieve an exodus from the status quo to build generational wealth and legacy. So Wayne, man, it's a pleasure to have you here again.
Absolutely.
Good to have you, man.
We also have Rod Areola again with us in the house. What's up, Rod?
What up? Great to be here.
Come on, Rod, again, serial entrepreneur, responsible for expanding the Teriyaki Madness restaurant franchise from like 30 stores to over 100 stores. He also is a baller in the Amazon DSP operations world, has built a super successful business there. And his expertise in business operations has fueled a substantial passive real estate investment portfolio. He's now the founder, of Stellar Legacy Capital, where he helps business owners just like him, franchise business owners, Amazon DSP operators, and a variety of other business owners be able to diversify into passive real estate investments. So it's exciting.
Very exciting
to have you here, man.
Thanks.
Last but not least, we got KJ, Kenny Johnson in the house. What's up, Kenny?
Howdy.
Kenny he's the host of the Invested Fathers podcast. He left a successful career in sales in the service industry to launch East West Capital, and he has achieved a true lifestyle by design. He's a dedicated father. He's built a substantial real estate portfolio that provides streams of income that allow him to give more of himself and more of his time to his family, and now he helps other like-minded and ambitious fathers and families who value faith, family, freedom, and all of those other things that align with his values. He helps them to build real estate wealth and income without the hassle, headache, or the typical time commitment. So, Kenny, welcome to the show, man. Welcome to Own the Exit.
Thank you. Love my dads out there.
Let's go. Loving dads. Loving dads. That's awesome. So I want to dive in here, and I want to just paint a scenario. So you've just closed a major client for your business. You've just closed a major deal. But instead of being able to celebrate, you're kind of worried about how to turn this success into long-term financial security, right? So transforming your current success into long-term success. I want to go down the line. We'll even start with Aaron. What do you do?
I mean, I, I think some thoughts I'm having is like, those initial steps when you're just like starting out in business, like you have to get to that first, you got to get your needs met, your family taken care of. You've got to get that cash flow coming in to cover your bills and everything. And I feel like that's step one. And I think it's okay to even like not be too impatient of like trying to get into other ventures or even passive real estate investing or things like that. If your own, you know, because I always tell people like, as a passive investor, like, what is cash flow? Cash flow is a metric of the equity that's invested. So if you're making a 10% cash on cash return and you need $100,000, you need $1 million invested.
Right.
And so you've got to get that million first. And so I think at the beginning, like, we all start out as active investors, active business owners where we're working. And then over time, though, you start to transition, where now 10% of your income is passive or that preservation for the future, and then 20, then 30, then 50, and then maybe 100% of your income is coming. And that doesn't mean you won't work. You might still work on top of it because you enjoy it, you're adding value, you're doing what you were created to do. But I see it as a journey. I think it takes time. I don't think you can shortcut it. Like it takes time. And even if you can shortcut it, it's like the idea of winning the lottery and getting, a couple $1,000,000 and 2 years later it's gone. Your family relationships are damaged. You're in a worse spot, because you got it too quickly. And so I think that's just the way it works and how it should work is, you're slowly growing, you're learning how to steward bit by bit, and then you're starting to put it into those longer term things where you can have passive income and start to diversify, but it just takes time.
Absolutely. So that's 100%. And so, with the conversation being around how do we turn our annual income into our monthly income, that's obviously a little bit of clickbait to get you guys on YouTube to watch us here. But it's also a real conversation that we really need to think about. And it's gonna, because there is a limit to how much time you can personally put into generating income. Right? When you're born and you start in the workforce, you are your only income producing asset. Right? You are your only income producing asset. Now, maybe you inherited something or whatever, and that means now you're a little bit further along. But the goal is to leverage your number one income producing asset to acquire more income producing assets.
Right.
So, Wayne, I want you to talk a little bit about even some of your background and how that example was set for you at an early age that has sort of allowed you to really be able to leverage that mindset and leverage that strategy, for quite a long time.
Yeah, I'll share two things about that because I actually grew up in a family that worked really hard, had a job, built a real estate business on the side. But I'll tell you, my dad actually had a lot of scarcity and kind of closed off. So he did a lot. And I've told him this. I said, Dad, I think your net worth could be about 10x if you would have employed some of the things that I learned in my business. And one of the key things I learned in my business, if you've ever studied or watched Coach John Wooden. He is like the greatest basketball coach ever, but he has the greatest mindset and process and diligence. And just like Aaron was saying of like having a long-term mindset, but showing up every day. And like he said, he has a quote that says, make each day your masterpiece. But, at UCLA, he came to UCLA and with no glitz and fanfare over like the first 10 years, didn't win any NCAA championships, just kept stacking, growing. Like he would get these great athletes, and one of the first things he would do is teach them how to put their socks on the right way. Because he told them, he said, if you don't put your socks on the right way, you're going to get blisters in this first practice. You're going to miss 2 weeks of practice. You're not even going to play your first year, but we'll be halfway through the season by the time your foot is healed. But then by like the 10th year, he went on to win 10 of the next 11 NCAA championships, multiple undefeated seasons. And I feel like if we just have that journey, that process mindset. And so as I built my businesses, I always was just like modeling my business after that is like, I literally was like, I want to create a coaching tree. Like if you look at John Wooden and the coaches, the lineage that came from him, and he was very behind the scenes. And that's where I never really wanted to be a big speaker on stage or like, do all this stuff to get glitz and glam. Like I just always was just like, man, if I can help all these other people crush life and crush their business and excel, and I was a part of it, then that is the ultimate success for me. But guess what happened? It's like reciprocated, where I've had a lot of worldly success financially with that mindset in that process. And so again, it's what we're doing with the network multiplier model. It's like replicating the same process. And I just know we're at the start right now, but one day we're going to look back and there's going to be billions of dollars that we've transferred into families and helped so many people with that same mindset. So study Coach Wooden, and man, you will not have any problems in life. He's amazing.
It reminds me, makes me think about a quote that my very first business mentor gave me from Zig Ziglar. And it's, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll have everything that you want. And so I also love, you and I have talked quite a bit about John Wooden and some of that. I think, the idea about the first thing I'm going to teach you to do, this stellar athlete, is put on your socks right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of like things that Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger have said, and other great, highly successful people who are, massively asymmetric to the norm. And I think the number one thing I've taken away from guys like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger is they keep the fundamentals right at the forefront all the time. They're always going back to the fundamentals. I mean, they say things like, if I can't understand a business on one page in less than 5 minutes, I won't invest in it. It has to be simple. It has to have great fundamentals, right? The fundamentals of don't be an impulse buyer, right? Leave your debit card and your cash at home so that you don't stop and spend that dumb money that is unnecessary, right? And it's not out of a poverty mindset. It's out of stewardship and responsibility. And it's just fundamentals. It's like, and so Rod, I would love for you to talk a little bit about how keeping the fundamentals strong is an essential part of turning your annual income into your monthly income, right? Because a boat that's leaking is eventually going to sink, right? So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like these guys said, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? So it's definitely a journey. It's definitely something that you got to work at. Earning income, obviously, is the first thing, and getting that money. Once you have that money, you've got to figure out how to deploy it effectively. And the best way that I've learned over the years is to diversify, right? So obviously you got to have an emergency fund and all that stuff. But after that, what are the best assets that'll get you to an income where you can actually make money while you're sleeping, right? That's always been the goal for me. Is if I'm on vacation or I'm hanging with the family, or I'm just taking a nap, is there money working for me? And so that is really what I've learned over the years is that you gotta be well diversified. And what's worked for me best is actually real estate over the years. And so throwing off income, the appreciating values of the asset class there. And also, the other thing I wanted to mention is, obviously you guys all know Robert Kiyosaki and his quadrants, right? So that was very instrumental in my journey as basically an investor. I wanted to get from the employee side to the investor side, right?
Yeah.
And so you make that money and you got to invest it in other income producing assets. And so don't be a consumer, right? Really think about what you're spending money on, and if you could spend that money in saving it, investing it instead of spending it. Think about what you could have.
Yeah.
I've really learned to do that whenever I spend anything right now. So because that dollar could be making you a lot more in the future. So yeah,
it's so many people struggle with this one thing, and I just can't figure out why. And I'm talking like 90+% probably. And it's lifestyle creep.
Yeah.
No matter
Totally.
how much money you make, you never get ahead. And I just don't understand it. I had somebody tell me early on, they actually said it as a matter of fact, and I'm glad that I ignored it. They're like, hey, no matter how much money you make, within 6 months, you're going to need more because your life is going to adjust. And I know for a lot of people that's actually true, but I'm glad that I rejected that mindset early on and said,
Right.
because the truth is like, the only way to get to a point of actual financial freedom is to actually practice a significant amount of financial restraint. And that means not giving into that lifestyle creep. I'd love, Kenny, for you to talk about that, because I know you left a successful, sales career in the service industry. You took a big risk because you said, you know what? I want to be with my family more. I want to be an invested father, right? And so you took the road less traveled. And I'm sure a big part of that, especially early on, was saying, okay, I'm going to have to scale back my lifestyle so that I can build this thing. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I tell people my paychecks usually come every 4 to 6 months because I'm doing bigger projects, flips or refinances, and the lifestyle of getting the paycheck every 2 weeks, that's gone. So we have to be very careful when we're acquiring new projects or obviously like going places, buying things, that we're budgeting appropriately. Um, we talked a little bit about going back to the basics of just fundamentals. I think you were saying, Aaron, or maybe it's you, Wayne, but just what is our like foundation, putting the socks on. And I feel like one of the things that at least I can have peace about is just taking care of others and then being content. Where is my value? What is my identity? We want to achieve, big portfolios and do more flips and, build this wealth. But I think one of the things I've come to know as I've taken down my hours outside of the home, or increase my hours in the home, is what is it that I'm really pursuing? What is my wealth in? So, I was working 60 plus hours a week, and I know everyone kind of has their own number of, I think Rod over here, another guy had mentioned 120 hours a week, which I've never heard that number before, but there's always maybe, I don't know how many hours a week you can max out at, but I felt so busy and so tired, and so distracted and engaged in my work that I wasn't spending time focusing on like, what is this for? I was telling myself I'm providing for my family, but I really lost, I feel like, my way in, well, I'm providing, these bills being paid, but I'm not providing, my time with them, my energy, my presentness. So, I guess that's kind of been the resounding lesson I keep sort of refocusing on as maybe this lifestyle creep happens and you got to watch your budget. What is it we're pursuing? What is it we're modeling for our kids? Moses, my son, is with me very often, so if I'm stressed or I don't know, pushing him aside on my phone, just distracted, there's things that I think I'm giving him a message to, which is like I need to be like dad in this way. When there's times to work, and that's actually been a huge struggle, is finding those blocks of time that like I can be focused, work on the business, but then when I can turn that off, focus on, I feel like what I'm really pursuing, which is a good family, being a good dad at home, and
That's so good, man.
doing that.
What you said about what is your wealth in?
Yeah, what are we?
That's huge.
Yeah. And, just note on financial discipline, I talked to my dad earlier of kind of restraining himself maybe, but one of the things, he did cast a lot of vision in me because we had rental houses and we fixed them and flipped. And my dad was always like, Wayne, this is our vacation house. And I was like, our vacation house? He's like, yeah, everything we do on this house cash flows and we take vacations with this. He said, this is your college house. Like everything you're doing on this house. So when you're cleaning up when tenants leave and painting and doing the yard work sometimes, like all this is cash flow. So it taught me as I got older, instead of having a lifestyle creep, and my wife, she always laughs because I'm like, if we're buying something, I'm like, I want an asset that actually is going to pay for that. Like we must have an asset that is paying for that, because I don't want that coming out of our income in any way. And so instead of a lifestyle creep, I talk about like we should have asset creep.
Right.
Like we should be acquiring more assets to pay for these things. Or you want to be a giver, to your church has a new build, or they're doing some mission trip or something, and you like have, hey, this property, this provides all the funds that I'm going to be giving with. And so, rewiring your brain of like, that's the power of the real estate is, we can create all these little fruit, money trees that are just dropping off money. And it's just like, that's for that, that's for that, that's for that. and, just have this amazing lifestyle.
Yep.
Yeah.
When I see that with you, when you talk about investing, that's what I'm hearing with these assets, is you're putting that same energy into people. Talk about like that coaching tree.
Yeah.
So when you're investing your time into these individuals, building your teams, you're getting things back in their development. And of course, they're growing their own businesses and wealth. So I see that as a pattern with you. I respect.
Thank you.
Yeah. Having that mindset of how can I afford this rather than, I can't afford it. Right. So like Wayne said, just in my life, I actually paid for college. I have two kids. I had two kids in college at the same time. And I actually invested in a couple rental homes, and those two rental homes that I eventually sold, which I regret, did pay for their college. So again, it's how
Good
do you,
investment.
yeah, for sure. It
Yeah.
was an amazing investment. And it's that mindset where, how can I afford this? And invest in things that that throw off income in order for you to do that and appreciate to a value that you can sell later. So
Seems
like
like
the idea
overall,
you said too of like turning your annual income into monthly, like it
Yeah.
is what is how that ties in, is like bit by bit you're investing into assets like a house or something or a business that pays you, and then it increases the money that's coming in,
Right.
and it takes time to literally make 12 times. Like if you're if you're making 200,000 a year and you're trying to make that monthly, it's going to take time, but but there's actually like steps to that.
Yep.
Of what you said of keeping your lifestyle, because that's one thing. Like if all of a sudden you're spending 12 times as much, was all kind of pointless.
It was.
Other than the fact you get to consume more.
Exactly.
But
You can drive a Lambo.
Yeah.
but it's still getting you from point A to B, and you're like,
Exactly.
And so
And you're not any happier.
Sure.
You don't feel any better.
Yeah, but there's the snowball. That's what, when I talk to my investors, I said, hey, we're creating a snowball. Like your ball may only be 50K right now, but like if you practice what we're talking about, we're going to roll it over. We're going to acquire another asset. We're going to acquire some more equity. We're going to roll that over again, and give me 10 to 20 years. You keep working your plan A, working that, but let's add this snowball. You'll wake up one day and you just have this mountain of equity, cash flow, and we're just rolling, and that thing is unstoppable.
Yeah. No, and it's absolutely true. I want to break it down super simple, right? Like the deals that we're all targeting, right, are, let's just say, conservatively a 2x multiple on invested capital every 5 years. That's the average of how it lands. Maybe you have a year where it overperforms, maybe you have a year where it underperforms. Let's say you just take $100,000 and say, this is my little snowball, right? In 5 years, you got 200.
Yeah.
In 10 years, you got 400. In 15 years, you got 800. In 20 years, you're a millionaire all over just off of 100,000. Now imagine if
without contributing anything more,
right? Without doing anything,
No
without
cash
contributing
outs.
anything out, without any of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so now take on that as a mindset of, that's me buying one asset one time and just being disciplined about how I let that roll, right? What if I could do that yearly and get 5 snowballs over the next 5 years rolling just like that?
Yeah.
That's exponential.
Yeah.
In 15, 20 years, your income is 12x, right?
Yeah.
Your annual income has now become your monthly income,
Yeah.
right? And that's even if some of those don't work out perfectly, right? You are diversified, and that to me is like, it really is that simple. A lot of people overthink it, but it really is that simple. So
yeah, and it's like you can move anything with a giant lever. So, whatever your goal is, it could be this huge boulder, but like what we create is leverage. So like anything can be moved with the right lever. So you have a team, it's more people, it's able to like move these huge projects down the field and really reach the goal. So, anything you can do to create leverage, and it always takes a team, it always takes multiple people to create that leverage. And that's why, I talked about my dad, is like, my dad didn't really expand to like create as much leverage as I think he could have. And it could have been a 10x of, you know, the things that they've done. And it's funny, it's cool now. He's investing now, so he's kind of late in the game doing stuff with us, and he's starting to open his eyes. And like I feel like in the next 10 years, even with him, we're going to be able to 10x the things that he's done there, which is cool. It's like we're showing him like, man, you have so much capital. Like we're gonna like this. You got a huge lever in your hand. We're about to move some huge things here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caleb, this is something that I continue to be blown away by, and it's the preciousness of time. You know, everything you just said about, you know, start with the 100. Well, you got to start with 100 now, because you mentioned 5, 10, 20 years go by, and that time is working for you now. But if you're waiting or you're, you know, looking for that perfect deal, not building the, you know, the wealth today so that you can invest it for, you know, your future kids, like we were talking about, you're going to be behind.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit more about the pressures. We don't want to put negative pressure on ourselves, but I think there's a sense of, hey, I need to act. I need to do this now, because if I just keep waiting, people will just keep moving along. And it's not about them passing me, but I want to be in on this time working for me as soon as I can.
Yeah. I've said it before, probably 100 times, and it's that the number one mistake that real estate investors period make is this idea of trying to time the market.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Trying to time the market. I've never met the guy who says, I wish I hadn't, I'm glad I didn't buy real estate 5 years ago. No matter what year it is, I'm glad I didn't buy real estate 5 years ago. Maybe in 2008, people would have said that, right? Maybe. But 5 years later, they're like, oh man, I wish I'd bought real estate in 2008, right? Like and I'm not trying to say it always is guaranteed to go up, but over time, like land is the one thing we're not going to get. Land and time are the one things that we're not going to get any more of. And so if we combine the power of those two things, land and a value for time, a value for time and a value for land, I think that's a recipe for success.
Simple as that.
Yeah, I have a visual of, you know, apartments that it's just like those ice-breaking ships. Like it just slowly makes a way. Like no matter what, it is like it just carves a path slowly but surely. It's like the safest long-term, you know, so it's, you got to just have patience and you got to have some capital. And that's why I just tell people, but I'm like, just get on this ship because we're moving that direction. And one day you're going to look up and be like, you'll look back and go, we plowed through all of that economic uncertainty, all of those things, all those political, like we just plowed through and made a way, and it's proven time and time again.
So many people are looking for the formula, and the formula is as simple as this. Use your number one income producing asset, yourself, to acquire capital, to buy more income producing assets and invest in more income producing assets. It really is that simple. That's how you multiply your annual income and turn it into your monthly income.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, I am grateful for each of you guys' insights. This has been an enriching conversation for sure. And Aaron, why don't you share one last drop of wisdom with us, and let's shut this episode
if I can add
down.
to this.
Hey, I'll say one more thing, because, you know,
Wayne's always got more.
He's got
That's
more.
great.
we have
love
2
it.
minutes left. Yeah. No, it's the first step when I talk to my investors is, you know, I'm like, I don't want you just to invest. I actually want to know why you want to invest. And, you know, I'm big on life by design, like design your life. How do we design your life? And so we have to visually build your future in your mind first. And so you talk about, you know, kids. I have 8 kids. I don't know how that happens. My wife jumps on me all the time, but I have 8 kids, and you know, so, you know, I'm always thinking into the future of like, where do I see myself 20 years from now? Like, what do I want my kids to be doing? What do we want our lifestyle? And then I just build it in reverse, right? So I'm talking to people. I'm like, hey, what do you really want? Like, is what we're doing with this real estate vehicle really going to get you 10 years where you want to be? Or can we at least build the framework for it? But my favorite thing is guys that don't have enough money to invest yet, because I've just unlocked people's dreams by talking to them. And so again, it's everything I do is the long game. Like I'm just long game, Like I'm never in a hurry. Like, you know, John Wooden says again, like be quick, but never hurry. So like I'm quick to strike. I'll act today. I'll do it, but I'm never in a hurry. I have no urgency to like make people fear scarcity or fearful, but just helping people really start to design their life 10 years, 20 years out, and then go back to today and say, okay, what can we do today? You need to start saving better. You need to start like, you know, be more disciplined with your spending. Let's start mapping that out. And, you know, I love that with the community that we're doing here with the podcast and Oak IQ and all the stuff is we're really educating people because knowledge is power. And once they see it, then they believe it. When you have belief, then you can take it, move it forward. So, I mean, we're doing incredible stuff.
Absolutely.
That's so good. Just having that anchor, you know, 20 years, you got to have that point, you know, where you're fixated on. Yeah. Because there's going to be, like you said, economic uncertainty, storms, emotional things.
Yeah, I got to reset
you know,
the
your
sales.
family, you know, we talk about lifestyle creep, but when your family grows, that's a natural creep of like, hey, it actually costs more for food now. Yeah. So I'm buying twice as much food.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, which I've experienced. Have 5 kids, you know,
8
going
times
from 1,
as
2, 3,
much.
4, 5. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
Got to buy 7 plane tickets now instead of
Right.
2.
Right.
But then it's like offsetting that, right?
Yeah.
And thinking ahead and like, how can I get ahead of that with more assets? And I love what you said about asset creep.
Yeah.
It needs to offset that. And
Absolutely.
so, really good stuff.
This has been such a great conversation. Hey, everybody that's listening or watching this on YouTube, you know, if this conversation has meant something to you, then I just want to ask you, do us a favor, share it. Share it with someone who you know in your network who could be impacted by this. If you haven't left us a review, please do that on Apple or Spotify. Give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube. And, you know, that's everything from this episode. Thanks for joining us again for another episode of Own the Exit. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.